All right, everyone, get ready because today we are going deep into how to prepare for a library manager interview.
Ooh, sounds intense.
It can be, but don't worry, that's why we are here, and we have a whole bunch of resources from RoleCatcher to help us out.
Yep, we've got career guides, sample interview questions.
And even some information on how their AI can give you an extra edge during your prep.
So if you are ready to really impress in that interview, let's jump right in.
Let's do it. So I think it would make sense to start with a really common question interviewers love to ask.
Yes, definitely.
Tell us about your experience managing a library.
Right, it sounds simple, but you want to make sure you really nail this one because
Yeah.
it's your first impression.
Exactly. So what are some things candidates should keep in mind when they get asked this?
Well, first of all, remember that they're looking for more than just a list of your previous job duties.
So don't just say, I was in charge of the children's book section or whatever.
Exactly. You need to show them how you've actually led and managed in the past. What were your successes?
Right? Like specific examples of times you took charge and made a positive impact.
Exactly. Think about situations where you overcame challenges, maybe had to think outside the box.
Or times you motivated your team to achieve something great.
Yes, that's perfect. Because they really want to see your leadership style in action.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So instead of just saying, I managed a team of 5, I might say something like,
Let's hear it.
I guided my team through a transition to a new digital catalog system, making sure things went smoothly for our patrons.
Ooh, I like it.
And we actually saw a boost in online engagement because of it.
Perfect. You're not just listing tasks, you're showing them what you accomplished as a leader.
And how you made a real difference.
Huh.
Okay, I'm getting it. Now, I bet interviewers often ask follow-up questions, too,
Oh, absolutely.
to see if you really know your stuff. So what might they ask after that first question?
Well, they could dig deeper into your experience with something like, what was the biggest obstacle you faced in that role, and how did you handle it?
Oof. Yeah, that one's a little trickier. You want to be honest, but also not sound like you are blaming others or anything?
Exactly. It's a balancing act. The key here is to choose a real challenge you faced.
Okay, so be honest.
Yes, but focus on how you overcame it. Briefly explain the problem, the steps you took.
And the positive outcome you achieved. Basically, you turned a negative into a positive,
Exactly. It shows them that you can learn and grow from difficult situations.
which is a super important quality for any leader.
Mhm.
Now, before we move on to another question,
Sure.
I just want to touch on how RoleCatcher can help with these kinds of interview questions.
Oh, yeah, their AI is amazing for this.
So tell us about that.
Well, imagine having a career coach right in your pocket. That's kind of what it's like.
I love that.
You can actually practice answering these interview questions. The AI will analyze your response,
Really?
and it compared it to successful answers from other candidates for that same job.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Then it gives you personalized feedback on how to improve your answer. It's like having a secret weapon for interview prep.
I can definitely see how that would be helpful, especially for anyone who gets nervous before interviews.
Absolutely. It can really boost your confidence. Okay, are we ready for another interview question?
Let's do it. What do you have for us?
Okay, this one is all about community engagement, which is super important for libraries these days.
For sure. So what's the question?
What strategies have you used to increase library usage?
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about knowing how to run a library internally, but also about connecting with the community.
Exactly. They want to see that you understand how to make the library a valuable resource for everyone.
Right. Because, let's be honest, we bought some new books isn't really a strategy.
No, not really. They want to see more creativity and initiative. Have you organized author events?
Or partnered with local schools, maybe.
Yes. Or think about programs that target specific groups in the community.
Like seniors or new parents.
Exactly. Think about how you've brought people into the library and made it a lively, engaging space.
Okay, so I need to brainstorm some out-of-the-box initiatives beforehand.
Exactly. And be prepared to give concrete examples because they might ask follow-up questions like,
Like what?
well, they might say, tell me about a specific program you implemented that successfully increased library usage. And then they'll probably ask, what were the measurable results?
So they want to know if I actually made a difference.
Exactly. Did you see more library card signups? Did program attendance go up?
Did more people check out books?
Yep, those are the details they're looking for because at the end of the day, they want to see that you can get results.
Okay, this is making a lot more sense now.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
So we talked about managing a library, engaging with the community. What else might they ask?
Okay, let's move on to a question that focuses on keeping the library's collection relevant.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one. especially with so many digital resources available these days.
Right. It's a whole new world out there. So the question might be something like, how do you ensure that the library's collection is relevant and up to date?
Okay, so how do I answer that one without sounding like I'm stuck in the past?
Well, first of all, you want to show them that you understand the evolving needs of library users.
Right, it's not just about physical books anymore.
Exactly. So you might talk about how you analyze circulation data to see what people are actually checking out,
Oh, that's smart.
or how you use patron surveys or focus groups to get feedback.
So it's about really listening to what people want and need,
Exactly. You also want to highlight your knowledge of collection development policies.
and how you make sure the library is meeting those professional standards.
Exactly. And of course, you need to talk about how you balance all of this with budget constraints.
Right, because unfortunately, we can't just buy everything we want.
No, we can't. So be prepared to discuss how you evaluate potential acquisitions.
And how you make tough choices about what to add to the collection.
Exactly. Now, be ready for them to throw you a curveball follow-up question on this one, too.
Okay, what might they ask?
They might say something like, what are your criteria for selecting new materials? And how do you balance those criteria with budget constraints?
Oh, yeah. That one gets right to the heart of it.
It does. It shows them that you understand the financial realities of running a library.
And that you can make tough choices when necessary.
Exactly. So before you go into that interview, take some time to think about your approach to budgeting and resource allocation.
Good advice. Now, I know that RoleCatcher also emphasizes the importance of soft skills for library managers.
They do, and for good reason. Those skills are essential in any leadership role.
Absolutely. So let's talk about how to showcase those skills during the interview.
All right, let's start with time management. Because let's be real, libraries can be chaotic places.
Oh, I know it. You're juggling a million things at once.
Exactly. So a common interview question might be, how do you prioritize tasks and manage your time effectively in a busy library setting?
Okay, that one feels a little stressful just thinking about it.
I know, right? But don't worry. The key here is to demonstrate your organizational skills.
So if I'm a list maker, this is my time to shine.
Exactly. Talk about the systems you use to stay organized. Maybe you have a project management system.
Or a color-coded calendar.
Yes. Anything that shows them you can handle multiple priorities without getting overwhelmed.
And that you don't drop the ball on important tasks.
Exactly. And remember, they also want to see that you can stay calm under pressure.
Because, let's be honest, things don't always go according to plan.
Never. So be prepared to share an example of a time when you had to adapt to a changing situation.
Or handle a last-minute crisis.
Yes, that will show them that you can think on your feet and handle whatever comes your way. Exactly. And along with that, be ready to talk about how you delegate tasks effectively.
Because you can't do it all yourself, right?
Right. You need to show that you can trust your team and empower them to take ownership.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I think it's time to talk about one of the most challenging aspects of working in a library.
Oh, you mean dealing with difficult patrons?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, no matter how organized you are, there will always be those moments that test your patience.
You're telling me it comes with the territory. And interviewers know that, so they will definitely want to know how you handle those tricky situations.
For sure. So what kind of questions should I expect on this topic?
Well, they might ask something like, how do you handle difficult patrons or situations in the library?
Okay, so they're not just looking for someone who can shelve books and answer basic questions.
Right. They want someone who can stay calm and professional under pressure and who can resolve conflicts effectively.
Okay, so what's the best way to answer that question?
Well, first of all, you want to emphasize your ability to de-escalate situations.
So not meeting anger with anger.
Exactly. You want to show that you can remain calm and empathetic even when someone's being disruptive.
Right, because libraries are supposed to be welcoming spaces for everyone.
Exactly. So you might talk about how you would approach a difficult patron respectfully.
Listen to their concerns, try to understand their perspective.
Yes. And then explain the library's policies clearly and calmly.
And if they're still not cooperating,
Then you might offer alternative solutions.
like what?
Well, if someone's being loud in a quiet study area, you could offer to move them to a different space.
Or if they're having trouble finding something, you could help them with their research.
Exactly. It's all about finding a compromise that works for everyone involved.
Okay, so it's not just about enforcing the rules, it's about finding creative solutions and preserving that positive library environment.
Exactly. And you know what? It's okay to admit that you don't always have all the answers.
Oh, really?
Yes, you can say something like, if I'm not sure how to handle a situation, I would consult with my supervisor or refer to the library's policy.
Okay, that makes sense. It shows that you're willing to ask for help when needed.
And that you take those policies seriously. Okay, let's move on to another important area. Showcasing your leadership experience.
Ah, yes. Because being a library manager is more than just managing books.
It is. You're leading a team, making decisions, and really shaping the direction of the library.
Right. So how do we highlight those leadership skills during the interview?
Well, common question might be something like, can you discuss your experience managing a team of library staff?
Okay, that one feels a little intimidating.
It can be, but remember, they're not expecting you to have decades of management experience.
Oh, it's good to know.
What they want to see is that you understand the basics of team management.
Like motivating your team, delegating tasks effectively.
Exactly, and providing constructive feedback.
Oh, that's a big one. How do I talk about giving feedback without sounding like a mean boss?
Well, the key here is to focus on how you help your team members grow and develop.
So it's not about criticizing them, it's about helping them improve their skills.
Exactly. You might talk about how you provide regular feedback, both positive and constructive.
And how you create a supportive environment where people feel comfortable coming to you with questions or concerns.
Yes, that's perfect. And of course, you should be prepared to give specific examples of times when you've successfully managed a team.
Like maybe a time when you led a team project or helped a staff member overcome a challenge.
Exactly. Now, be ready for them to follow up with a question about conflict resolution.
Uh-oh. Because conflict is inevitable in any workplace, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a team of passionate people working together.
So what might they ask?
Well, they might say something like, tell me about a time when you had to deal with a conflict between two staff members. How did you approach the situation?
Oh, that's a tough one. It's like they're asking me to be a therapist.
Well, in a way you are. You're mediating the situation and trying to find a resolution that works for everyone.
Okay, so how do I show that I can handle that kind of conflict diplomatically?
Well, first of all, you want to emphasize your ability to listen actively.
So really hearing both sides of the story.
Exactly. You want to understand each person's perspective and help them see things from the other's point of view.
Okay, that makes sense. And
Then you want to facilitate a respectful dialogue between the two parties.
so creating a safe space where they can talk things out.
Exactly. And your goal is to help them find common ground and reach a solution that addresses everyone's concerns.
Okay, so it's not about taking sides or punishing anyone. It's about finding a win-win situation.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes the best solution is simply to agree to disagree.
Oh, really?
Yes, as long as everyone can move forward and continue to work together effectively.
Okay, that's a good reminder. Now, I think it's time to move on to a question that everyone loves to answer.
Oh, you mean the one where we get to brag about our accomplishments?
Yes, because we've talked about managing teams, dealing with conflict, but what about those times when we really shined?
I like where this is going. So tell me, what kind of question are we looking at here?
It might be something like, can you provide an example of a successful project you have led in a previous library role?
Okay, now this is your chance to showcase your initiative, your problem-solving skills.
And of course, those leadership qualities that we've been talking about.
Exactly. So choose a project that really demonstrates your abilities.
And ideally, one that aligns with this specific requirements of this library manager position.
Right. Was it a program that brought in a new audience to the library?
Or maybe a fundraising campaign that exceeded its goals.
Yes. Or maybe you spearheaded a major renovation project.
Ooh, I like that one. It shows that you can handle big, complex projects.
It does. Now, when you're describing your project, don't be shy about sharing your specific contributions.
Right, because this is our time to shine.
It is. So tell them about the project's goals, the challenges you faced, and how you overcame them.
And most importantly, the results you achieved.
Yes. Did you increase library usage? Improve patron satisfaction?
Did you stay within budget?
All of those details will make your story more compelling and memorable.
Okay, now before I forget, I want to mention how RoleCatcher can help with this question too.
Oh, yes. Their AI can be a real game changer here.
So tell me about it.
Well, you can actually type in a description of your project into RoleCatcher.
Really?
And their AI will analyze it and compare it to successful answers from other library manager candidates.
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
And it can give you suggestions on how to improve your answer. Maybe you need to add some keywords that align with the job description.
Or maybe you need to strengthen your narrative to really highlight those leadership qualities.
Exactly. It's like having an expert editor helping you craft the perfect pitch for your accomplishments.
I love it. It's like having a secret weapon.
It kind of is. Okay, are we ready for another question?
Yes, bring it on. What else might they ask?
Okay, this one is all about professional development. They might ask something like, how do you keep up to date with developments in library science and best practices?
Ooh, yeah. Because libraries are constantly changing and evolving.
They are, and interviewers want to know that you're committed to lifelong learning.
So they want to see that you're not just stuck in the past.
Exactly. They want someone who's proactive about staying ahead of the curve.
So saying I read articles probably won't cut it.
Probably not. You need to show them that you're actively seeking out new knowledge.
So what are some better ways to answer that question?
Well, you might talk about attending conferences and workshops.
Like the ones offered by the American Library Association.
Yes, exactly, or ALA for short. You could also mention joining professional organizations.
Or subscribing to relevant journals and publications.
Yes. And don't forget about online learning opportunities.
Like webinars and online courses.
Exactly. The key here is to show them that you're invested in your professional growth.
And that you're always looking for ways to expand your knowledge and skills.
Exactly. And you know what? You could even mention that you listen to podcasts like this one.
Oh, that's a good idea. It shows that you're engaged with the latest trends and discussions in the field.
It does. Okay, let's move on to another important question that focuses on community engagement.
Yes, because, as we said before, libraries are all about serving their communities.
Absolutely. So they might ask something like, how do you ensure that the library is meeting the needs and interests of the local community?
Okay, this feels like a big one.
It is. It gets to the heart of what libraries are all about.
So how do I answer that question in a way that really impresses them?
Well, first of all, you need to show them that you understand the diverse needs of your community.
Right, because libraries are for everyone.
Exactly. So you might talk about how you've conducted surveys or focus groups to gather feedback.
Or how you've partnered with local organizations to reach underserved populations.
Yes, that's perfect. You could also talk about attending community events.
Or simply making an effort to get to know the people who use the library.
Exactly. The more you can demonstrate that you're actively listening to your community, the better.
And that you're incorporating their feedback into your decision-making.
Exactly. Now, be prepared for them to follow up with a question about a time when you had to make a difficult decision.
Oh, like when you had to cut a program or reduce hours due to budget constraints.
Exactly. They might ask something like, can you tell me about a time when you had to make a difficult decision that impacted the community? How did you approach that decision?
Ooh, that's a challenging one. Because sometimes you have to make unpopular choices.
You do. But the key here is to show that you approach those decisions ethically and thoughtfully.
So you might talk about how you gathered input from stakeholders.
Weighed the potential impacts, considered all the options.
And ultimately made a decision that aligned with the library's mission and values.
Exactly. And you know what? It's also important to talk about how you communicated that decision to the community.
Right, because transparency is key.
It is. You want to acknowledge their concerns, explain your rationale, and be open to feedback.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I know we can't avoid talking about budgets forever.
Oh, no. It's coming. Are you ready?
I think so. Hit me with it. What kind of budget questions should I expect?
Well, they might ask something like, can you discuss your experience with budget planning and management in a library setting?
Ugh, budgets? Why do they have to be so complicated?
I know, right? But don't worry, this question is just an opportunity to show that you understand basic budgeting principles.
So they're not expecting me to be a financial expert.
No, not at all. What they want to see is that you can manage money responsibly.
So how do I demonstrate that?
Well, you might talk about your experience with creating and managing budgets.
Or negotiating contracts with vendors.
Yes. Or seeking out grants and other funding opportunities.
And of course, finding creative ways to stretch those limited resources.
Exactly. The key here is to show them that you can make tough choices and prioritize spending based on the library's strategic goals.
Okay, so it's not just about crunching numbers, it's about making smart decisions that benefit the library and the community.
Exactly. Now, I think we've covered a lot of ground today when it comes to interview prep.
We have, but there's still so much more to explore.
Like those career paths and how RoleCatcher can help you navigate every step of the way. Exactly. So let's take a quick break and then we'll be right back to wrap things up. Okay, we're back and ready to finish up our library manager interview prep deep dive.
We've talked about some tough interview questions, those soft skills that are so important.
But now I think it's time to look at the bigger picture.
Yes, the career path itself.
So let's say someone is just starting out in their library career.
Maybe as a library assistant.
Exactly. What does that typical career path look like?
Well, according to RoleCatcher's career guide, a lot of people start as a library assistant, getting that hands-on experience, learning the ropes.
Right, makes sense.
From there, you might move up to library technician, where you're taking on more responsibility, maybe even specializing in something like cataloging or digital resources.
Okay, so you're starting to climb that ladder.
Exactly. And then comes assistant library manager. Now you're really starting to hone those leadership skills.
The ones we've been talking about.
Exactly. And then finally, you reach that library manager position, leading the team, shaping the library's vision.
I love it, a real success story.
It is. But I think it's important to remember that you can start developing those leadership skills even before you reach that manager level.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So what can someone do early on to really stand out and prepare for that next step up?
Well, even as a library assistant, don't be afraid to take initiative, volunteer for special projects, shadow people in different departments.
So show that you're eager to learn.
Exactly. Go to professional development workshops, even if they're just online webinars, just show that you're going above and beyond.
I like that. Seizing opportunities.
Yes. And as you move into roles like library technician, assistant library manager, you'll naturally start to gain more leadership experience.
And that's where you can really practice those management skills.
Absolutely. Delegating, motivating your team, resolving conflicts, managing projects, it's all part of the journey.
So even if you're not the boss yet, you can still act like a leader.
Exactly. And don't forget about finding a mentor, someone who can guide you and offer advice.
Oh, that's great advice. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about RoleCatcher's AI one last time.
Oh, yes, this is such a valuable tool.
We've already talked about how it can help you fine-tune your interview answers, but what else can it do?
Well, it can analyze your skills and experience and then match you with relevant job openings.
Really?
Yes. It can even help you optimize your resume and cover letter to make them stand out.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's like having a personalized career assistant.
It kind of is, and it can also help you identify any skill gaps you might have.
And then recommend courses or training programs to fill those gaps.
Exactly. It's all about continuous learning and improvement.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything today.
I think so too. From nailing those interview questions to really thinking about your long-term career goals.
And of course, using those amazing AI tools to your advantage.
Absolutely. So as you go into that interview, remember that the library is more than just a building. It's a community hub, a place where people connect and grow.
That's a great reminder. Think about how you, as a leader, can make a real difference in that space.
What's your vision? How can you inspire your team and your community?
Those are the questions that will really make you stand out. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel prepared and inspired to go after that library manager position.